When my ex served me divorce papers at my sister's funeral. Then I found her body camera. I'm standing behind a catering cart at SXSW watching my ex-fiancé feed wedding cake to the woman who destroyed my life. The champagne flute in my hand is shaking so hard I'm afraid it might shatter. Dylan Harper, the man I built a wedding empire with, the man I trusted with my heart, my business, my future. He's wearing a tailored navy suit and laughing at something Victoria Kane whispered in his ear. Victoria Kane, my college roommate, my maid of honor at the wedding that never happened. The woman who vanished from my life 5 years ago right after my sister Maya died. They're celebrating their honeymoon at Austin's biggest music festival while I'm serving drinks in a uniform that smells like other people's sweat. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to serve champagne to the people who destroyed everything you cared about, if you've ever had to smile while your world burns down around you, hit that like button and subscribe. Because this story is about what happens when the universe gives you front row seats to your own betrayal. Let me take you back to where it all started, 6 months earlier, Austin, Texas. The final client meeting was supposed to be different. Sarah Williams, tech executive, marrying her college sweetheart at Laguna Gloria. $500,000 budget. The kind of wedding that put eternal moments on magazine covers. I sat across from Sarah in our downtown office surrounded by mood boards and fabric samples that represented 2 years of planning. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Austin's skyline glittered in the October heat. "Sophia, I need to ask you something difficult." Sarah said, her voice carefully neutral. My stomach dropped. In 12 years of wedding planning, I'd learned to recognize that tone. "What's wrong?" "We received a call yesterday from Victoria Kane at Kane Luxury Events. She said there were concerns about Eternal Moments' financial stability, that some vendors hadn't been paid, that our wedding might not happen as planned." The words hit me like ice water. "That's not true. We've paid every vendor. Our accounts are current." "I believe you, but Victoria offered to take over the wedding. Same vendors, same vision, but with Kane Luxury's reputation behind it. And honestly, Sophia, we can't risk our wedding day." I sat in stunned silence, watching 2 years of work evaporate. Sarah looked genuinely sorry, but she'd already made her decision. "I'll have our contracts terminated by end of business today," she continued. "Victoria said Kane Luxury would honor all existing arrangements. You won't lose money on vendor deposits." Victoria said, the words tasted bitter, "Did you call our vendors directly, ask them about payment issues?" Sarah's silence was my answer. After she left, I sat alone in my office staring at the contracts that represented everything Dylan and I had built. Eternal Moments Weddings, the company we'd started in my garage 7 years ago. The dream we'd grown from weekend courthouse ceremonies to luxury destination events. Dylan found me there at 7 p.m., still in the same chair, still holding Sarah's termination notice. "Soph," his voice was gentle the way it got when he was about to deliver bad news. "We need to talk." Dylan Harper was beautiful in the way that made clients trust him immediately. 6'2", dark hair that he kept just messy enough to seem approachable, green eyes that captured emotion in photographs like they captured it in real life. When we'd met at UT 8 years ago, I'd been the business student with a part-time wedding planning side hustle. He'd been the art major who could make any couple look like they were starring in their own romantic movie. "Sarah terminated us," I said without looking up. "I know. She called me directly." Dylan sat on the edge of my desk the way he had 1,000 times before. "Soph, there's something else. 3 more clients called today. Same story. Same concerns about financial stability." "What concerns? We're profitable. We have 6 months of operating costs in the bank." "I know, but someone's been calling our vendors, spreading rumors, creating doubt." He paused. "Someone with inside knowledge of our client list, our vendor relationships, our business model." The implication hung between us like a blade. "You think it's corporate espionage, someone trying to steal our clients." "I think it's someone who knows us, really knows us." Dylan's jaw tightened. "Someone who understands exactly how to hurt us." "Do you have any idea who?" Dylan was quiet for a long moment. Too quiet. "Dylan, there's something I haven't told you about why I was late to the Morrison wedding last month, and the Henderson reception, and that vendor meeting at the Four Seasons." My chest constricted. "What are you talking about?" "I've been meeting with someone, an old friend. She reached out a few months ago, said she was thinking about relocating to Austin. Wanted advice about the wedding industry here." She, Victoria Kane. The name hit me like a physical blow. Victoria Kane, my college roommate at UT, my best friend until she disappeared from my life 5 years ago, right after Maya's funeral. No explanation, no goodbye, just a forwarding address in San Antonio and silence. Victoria's been in Austin for months. Sophia, I should have told you. You should have told me, Dylan. Victoria Kane owns the biggest wedding planning company in San Antonio. She's our direct competitor, and you've been meeting with her secretly for months. I stood up, pacing to the window. Jesus Christ, Dylan, what did you tell her? Nothing proprietary, just general industry stuff, market trends, vendor relationships. Vendor relationships. I turned to face him. The same vendors who are now questioning our financial stability. Dylan's face went pale. You think Victoria? I think Victoria played you. I think she came to Austin specifically to gather intelligence on eternal moments. And I think you gave her everything she needed to destroy us. That's not Victoria wouldn't what? Wouldn't use insider information to steal our clients, wouldn't lie to vendors about our finances, wouldn't systematically destroy the company her ex-best friend built. My voice was rising now. When was the last time you talked to her, Dylan? He looked away. Yesterday. Yesterday. The same day Sarah Williams got a mysterious call from Kane Luxury Events. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You called Victoria yesterday to tell her about Sarah's concerns, didn't you? I was worried about the rumors. I thought maybe she'd heard something. Thought she might have insight into who was spreading them. And instead of insight, she offered to solve Sarah's problem by taking over the wedding. Dylan stood up, ran his hands through his hair. Sophia, I fucked up. I should have told you Victoria was back in touch, but I swear to God I never thought she'd try to hurt eternal moments. I thought she was trying to make amends, after the way she left, after Maya. At the mention of my sister's name, something cold settled in my chest. Maya Chen had died 5 years ago in a car accident on her way to meet a client. Brake failure on Lake Austin Boulevard. She'd been working as my junior planner fresh out of college, brilliant and ambitious, and so much better with people than I'd ever been. Victoria had been at the funeral, had held me while I cried, had helped me plan the service coordinate flowers, manage the aftermath of sudden grief. And then she'd vanished. 2 weeks later, forwarding address in San Antonio. No explanation. I'd assumed she couldn't handle being around reminders of Maya. Grief affected people differently. I tried to reach out a few times in the first year, but Victoria never responded. Now I wondered if her disappearance had been about something else entirely. Dylan, I need you to be completely honest with me. What exactly did you discuss with Victoria? Client preferences, vendor pricing, market positioning. He paused. Your mental state after Maya died. How the business was affected. How you were affected. My mental state. Victoria was worried about you. Said she'd tried to reach out, but you never responded to her messages. She wanted to know if you were okay, if the business was stable, if you were taking care of yourself. What messages Victoria never... I stopped. Grabbed my phone, scrolled through 5 years of texts, emails, voicemails. Nothing from Victoria Kane. Dylan, I never got any messages from Victoria. Not after Maya's funeral. Not ever. His face went white. That's not possible. She said she'd been trying to contact you for years. She lied about the messages, about her concern for my mental state, about wanting to make amends. I felt pieces clicking into place. She came back to Austin with a plan, to gather intelligence on our business, to turn you against me, to steal our clients and destroy our reputation. But why? What did we ever do to Victoria? That was the question I couldn't answer. Victoria Kane and I had been inseparable in college. Roommates, study partners, bridesmaids in each other's imaginary weddings. She'd been my maid of honor when Dylan proposed, had helped me plan our engagement party, had been the first person I called when Dylan and I decided to start eternal moments together. I don't know why, I said finally, but I'm going to find out. The next morning, I arrived at the office at 6 a.m. to find Dylan already there, sitting in the conference room with paperwork spread across the table. Dissolution documents, he said without looking up. I called my lawyer last night. If we're going to lose eternal moments anyway, we should do it cleanly. Protect what assets we can. Dissolution. I sat down across from him. Dylan, we can rebuild. We can fight back. We can... With what clients? With what reputation? He finally looked at me, and his eyes were red-rimmed with exhaustion. Sophia, I got 4 more cancellation calls this morning. 4. Our October weddings are gone. November is looking shaky, and the rumors about our finances are spreading faster than we can correct them. So we hire a crisis management firm. We issue statements. We take legal action against whoever's spreading lies about our business. And if it's Victoria, are you prepared to sue your former best friend for corporate espionage? Go to court and drag your personal history through depositions and discovery. I was quiet for a moment. Dylan was right about one thing. Taking legal action against Victoria would be messy, public, and expensive. And it wouldn't bring back the clients we'd already lost. What are you proposing? We dissolve eternal moments, split the assets. I take the photography side, you take the planning side. We start over, separately. The words hit me like a second betrayal. Separately. Sophia, this isn't just about business. Victoria said things about us, about our relationship, about whether we're really compatible as partners. What kind of things? Dylan pulled out his phone, scrolled to a text thread, showed me the screen. Victoria Kane, Dylan, I hope this isn't overstepping, but I'm worried about Sophia and about you. You seem unhappy when you talk about work, about your relationship. You deserve someone who appreciates what you bring to the partnership. Dylan Harper, it's complicated. Victoria Kane. It doesn't have to be. You're an incredible photographer, an incredible man. You could have your pick of partners, business and otherwise. Dylan Harper. Sophia and I have history. Victoria Kane. History isn't the same as a future. When was the last time she really saw you, appreciated, you made you feel valued? I stared at the texts, feeling something crack inside my chest. Dylan, she's manipulating you. Can't you see that this is exactly what she wants? For us to doubt each other. To break up the partnership. To destroy eternal moments from the inside. Is she wrong, though? Dylan's voice was quiet. When was the last time you made me feel valued, Sophia? When was the last time you looked at me and saw your partner instead of your employee? The question caught me off guard because I couldn't answer it. The past 5 years had been a blur of 18-hour days, impossible clients, and the constant pressure to grow the business. Dylan had become reliable, dependable, part of the infrastructure of my life rather than the center of it. Dylan, I love you. I've loved you for 8 years, but I don't think you love me anymore. I think you love eternal moments, and I can't compete with a business that's more important to you than I am. That's not true. Isn't it? He pulled out another document. This is a dissolution agreement, 50-50 split of assets. You keep the Eternal Moments name and client list. I keep the photography equipment and studio lease. We both walk away with enough to start over. I looked at the papers at Dylan's signature already there in black ink and realized that Victoria Kane had won. Not just the clients, not just the business, everything. What about us? I asked. I think we need space. Time to figure out who we are separately before we can figure out who we are together. Space, I laughed bitterly. That's what Victoria said when she disappeared after Maya's funeral. She needed space, and I never heard from her again. This is different. Is it Dylan stood up, gathered his papers. I'll be out of the office by Friday. Take whatever time you need to figure out next steps. He paused at the door. Sophia, for what it's worth, I do love you. That was never the problem. After he left, I sat alone in the conference room staring at the dissolution documents. 8 years of partnership, 7 years of building a business, 3 years of engagement, ended by a woman who'd been out of my life for 5 years and somehow still found a way to destroy everything I cared about. I pulled out my phone, searched for Victoria Kane online. Kane Luxury Events had a beautiful website, testimonials from satisfied clients, photos of gorgeous weddings in San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. Victoria herself on the About page, blonde hair in a sleek bob, wearing a designer dress, smiling at the camera like she owned the world. The bio mentioned her expansion plans into the Austin market, bringing San Antonio's premier wedding planning services to Texas's capital city. Posted 6 months ago. Victoria hadn't come to Austin on a whim. She'd been planning this for months, had probably been gathering intelligence on Austin's wedding market, identifying the top competitors, developing a strategy to take over market share. And somehow that strategy had included destroying Eternal Moments specifically. But why? What had I done to Victoria Kane that made her want to systematically destroy my life? I scrolled through more photos on her website. Beautiful couples, gorgeous venues, flawless execution. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A wedding photo from last month. The caption read, "Congratulations to Sarah and Michael Williams on their beautiful celebration at Laguna Gloria." Sarah Williams, our former client, the one who terminated us yesterday. Except according to this photo, Victoria had married Sarah off 3 weeks ago. Victoria hadn't stolen our client yesterday. She'd stolen our client a month ago, had executed our entire wedding plan down to the specific vendors and design elements Dylan and I had chosen. And somehow she'd convinced Sarah to keep it secret until after the wedding was over. I scrolled through more photos, found another familiar wedding, and another. 6 months of our clients, 6 months of our weddings, all executed by Kane Luxury Events, all photographed by... I squinted at the photo credits. DH Photography, Dylan Harper Photography. Dylan hadn't just been meeting with Victoria to discuss industry trends. He'd been working with her, photographing her weddings, our weddings. My phone buzzed. Text from Dylan. "Sophia, I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I think it's better if we're honest about everything now instead of dragging it out." I stared at the message, understanding finally clicking into place. Dylan and Victoria hadn't just stolen my business. They'd been working together for months, planning together, building together. While I'd been planning our engagement, Dylan had been planning my destruction. I typed back, "How long?" "Since May. 4 months. 4 months of lies. 4 months of coming home to Dylan, kissing him goodnight, planning our wedding while he was already building a new life with someone else. Did you ever love me? Or was that part of the plan too?" The response took 10 minutes, long enough that I'd convinced myself he wasn't going to answer. "I loved who you used to be. Before Maya died. Before you became someone who cared more about business than people." Victoria helped me remember what that felt like. Before Maya died. Everything came back to Maya. I grabbed my laptop, pulled up my sister's file from 5 years ago. The police report I'd never been able to read completely. The mechanic's report that had been too technical to understand. Maya Chen, age 28, single vehicle accident on Lake Austin Boulevard. Caused catastrophic brake failure. Time, 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. She'd been driving to meet a potential client. A couple interested in a lakeside wedding. High budget, lots of potential for eternal moments. But there was something else in the file. Something I'd forgotten in my grief. A witness statement. Someone had seen Maya's car in the parking garage of the Four Seasons Hotel that morning. Had seen someone approach the vehicle around 11 a.m. The witness description was vague. Blonde woman, approximately 30 years old, appeared to be checking something near the front wheel. At the time, police had assumed it was Maya herself, maybe checking tire pressure or investigating a weird noise. But Maya had been in our office at 11 a.m. that Tuesday. I remembered because we'd been reviewing vendor contracts for the Morrison wedding. Someone else had been near Maya's car that morning. Someone blonde. Someone who knew Maya's schedule. Someone who knew she'd be driving to Lake Austin that afternoon. I pulled out my phone, called Austin PD. "Detective Williams, this is Sophia Chen. I'd like to reopen my sister's case from 5 years ago. I think I have new information." That evening, Dylan came by the house to pick up his things. Our house. The Craftsman bungalow in South Austin that we'd bought together 2 years ago. The place where we'd planned to raise kids, grow old, build a life. He moved through our space like a stranger, carefully avoiding eye contact while he packed camera equipment and clothes. "Dylan," I said when he was almost finished, "I need to ask you something." He stopped, a suitcase in each hand. "Okay." "The day Maya died, do you remember where Victoria was?" His face went pale. "Sophia, what are you talking about?" "Victoria left Austin right after Maya's funeral. Never said goodbye, never explained why. And now she's back destroying our business, stealing you away from me. I need to know if there's a connection." "A connection to what is?" "To Maya's accident." Dylan set down the suitcases. "Sophia, Maya's death was an accident. Brake failure. You know that." "Do I? Because there was a witness who saw someone near Maya's car that morning. Someone blonde. Someone who fits Victoria's description." You think Victoria killed Maya? Dylan's voice was incredulous. Sophia, listen to yourself. Victoria loved Maya. We all did. Did she? Because I'm starting to think Victoria resented Maya, resented how close we were, resented that Maya was joining the business. Maybe Victoria saw Maya as competition. For what? For you. The words hung in the air between us. Victoria was in love with you in college, Dylan. Did you know that she told me junior year that she had feelings for you? But you chose me instead. And Victoria never forgot that. Dylan was quiet for a long moment. Sophia, even if that's true, it doesn't mean Victoria killed Maya. It means she was jealous. Those are very different things. Are they? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like Victoria spent 5 years planning revenge. Against me for stealing you. Against Maya for threatening to take you away again. Against Eternal Moments for representing everything she couldn't have. You're grieving, Dylan said gently. And you're angry about the business. But you can't accuse someone of murder just because they hurt your feelings. My feelings? I stared at him. Dylan, Victoria systematically destroyed everything I built. Everything we built together. And she did it by manipulating you into betraying me. That's not hurt feelings. That's psychological warfare. She didn't manipulate me. She helped me see things clearly. What things? That you're not the same person I fell in love with. That you haven't been for years. That maybe it's time for both of us to move on. The casualness of it, the way he delivered our relationship's death sentence like he was discussing the weather, broke something inside me. Get out, I said quietly. Sophia, get out of my house. Now. After Dylan left, I sat in our living room surrounded by the remnants of our life together. Wedding magazines on the coffee table, engagement photos on the mantle, a business we'd built, and a love we'd shared, all reduced to legal documents and moving boxes. I pulled out my laptop, started researching. Victoria Kane, born Victoria Rivera in El Paso, changed her name to Kane in college, her mother's maiden name. Graduated UT with a degree in business and communications. Started Kane Luxury Events 5 years ago. 5 years ago, right after Maya died. I dug deeper, found Victoria's business registration. Her initial funding had come from a private investor, a shell company called Maya Holdings LLC. Maya Holdings, named after my dead sister. Victoria had built her wedding empire on the foundation of Maya's death. Had used my sister's name as some kind of sick tribute or private joke. I called Detective Williams back. Detective, it's Sophia Chen again. I found something else. About my sister's case. What did you find? The woman who might have killed her named her company after Maya. I think this was personal. I think this was planned. Detective Williams was quiet for a moment. Ms. Chen, I understand you're going through a difficult time, but without concrete evidence of foul play, then help me find evidence. Reopen the case. Look at the brake failure differently. Question the witnesses again. Do something. I'll review the file, she said finally. But Ms. Chen, don't investigate this yourself. If someone did kill your sister, and they think you're getting close to the truth, you could be in danger. After I hung up, I sat in the dark thinking about Maya. My sister had been brilliant, funny, brave in ways I'd never been. She'd majored in communications with a minor in psychology, could read people like open books, could convince anyone to see her point of view. Maya would have seen through Victoria's manipulation immediately. Maya would have protected me. Maya would have saved Eternal Moments. But Maya was dead, had been dead for 5 years, and I was just now realizing that her death might not have been the accident I'd always believed. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through old photos until I found one from Maya's last birthday. The three of us, me, Maya, and Victoria, at dinner at South by Southwest. We were laughing about something, probably one of Maya's stories about difficult clients. Victoria was smiling in the photo, but something about her expression looked forced, like she was playing a role. Had she already been planning Maya's death then? Had she been sitting across from us, calculating how to eliminate the obstacles standing between her and the life she wanted? I zoomed in on Victoria's face, trying to see past the smile to whatever was really going on behind her eyes. And for the first time in 5 years, I allowed myself to think the unthinkable. Victoria Kane had murdered my sister, and now she was coming for me. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Stop digging, Sophia. Some graves should stay closed. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. Someone was watching me. Someone knew I was investigating Maya's death. Someone wanted me to stop. I turned off all the lights in the house, checked the locks on every door and window, and sat in the dark with my laptop researching everything I could find about Victoria Kane. If she thought a threatening text would scare me off, she was wrong. Maya deserved justice, and I was going to get it for her, even if it killed me. 3 months later, February 2025, the bankruptcy was finalized on a Tuesday morning in February. I signed the papers in a lawyer's office that smelled like old leather and broken dreams, watching 12 years of business success reduced to liquidation schedules and asset distributions. Eternal moments. Weddings was officially dead. I walked out of that office with $17,000, a 10-year-old Honda Civic, and a credit score that would keep me out of decent apartments for the next few years. Detective Williams had called the week before to tell me that Maya's case would remain closed. Insufficient evidence to suggest foul play, she'd said. I'm sorry, Ms. Chen. Sometimes accidents are just accidents. But I knew better now. I'd spent 3 months researching Victoria Kane, and the pattern was becoming clear. Victoria didn't just steal businesses, she destroyed the people who built them. Kane Luxury Events had expanded into Austin by systematically targeting established wedding planners, spreading rumors about their reliability, then swooping in to save distressed clients. I wasn't her first victim. I was just her most personal one. The threatening text had stopped after that first night, but I knew Victoria was still watching, waiting to see if I'd give up and disappear the way she'd probably expected. Instead, I'd done something she hadn't counted on. I'd applied to work at SXSW. South by Southwest was Austin's biggest festival, a chaos of music technology and corporate money that descended on the city every March. They hired hundreds of temporary staff for catering, security, logistics. The pay was terrible, but it came with one major advantage: access. Victoria Kane would be at SXSW. Kane Luxury Events was listed as the official wedding and event planning partner for several corporate sponsors. She'd be in VIP areas schmoozing with potential clients, building her empire on the ashes of businesses like mine. I was going to get close to her, close enough to find evidence of what she'd done to Maya, close enough to destroy her the way she'd destroyed me. Sophia Chen, the SXSW hiring manager, looked up from my application. You're overqualified for catering staff. You have a degree in business and 12 years of event management experience. I'm looking for a career change, I said. Something less stressful, more collaborative. She studied my resume. What happened to Eternal Moments, your wedding planning company? Market changes. We decided to dissolve the partnership and explore new opportunities. It wasn't entirely a lie. Dylan and I had dissolved our partnership. I just wasn't mentioning that Victoria Kane had forced our hand by stealing our clients and turning my fiancé against me. Well, you're definitely qualified, and we could use someone with your experience in our VIP catering division. You'd be working corporate events, sponsor parties, that kind of thing. Perfect. That sounds ideal. One more question. SXSW can be intense. Long hours, difficult clients, high-stress situations. Are you sure you're ready for that level of chaos? I smiled. I think I can handle it. March 15th, SXSW opening day. The Austin Convention Center was transformed into a maze of stages, vendor booths, and corporate pavilions. 50,000 people would flow through these spaces over the next 5 days, creating exactly the kind of chaos I needed to operate undetected. I reported to the catering supervisor at 6 a.m., dressed in the regulation black pants and white shirt that would make me invisible to everyone who mattered. The uniform came with a name tag that said Sophie, in small print close enough to my real name that I'd respond naturally, different enough that Victoria might not immediately recognize it if she saw it. Sophie, you're assigned to VIP Pavilion C, Carmen Delgado said, handing me a radio and an access badge. Corporate sponsors, high-dollar clients, people who paid extra for the premium experience. Your job is to make sure they don't notice us and they never run out of anything. Carmen was in her 50s, Latina, with the kind of calm competence that suggested she'd been managing chaos professionally for decades. She reminded me of the venue managers I'd worked with in my Eternal Moments days, people who could coordinate complex events while making it look effortless. Any particular clients I should know about? I asked. Carmen checked her clipboard. Kane Luxury Events is hosting a networking reception tonight. Wedding industry people, potential clients. They specifically requested our most experienced staff. My heart rate spiked. I can handle that. Good. They're also bringing their own photographer for the event. Dylan Harper. You might have worked with him before he does a lot of high-end weddings in Austin. I kept my face neutral. Name sounds familiar. Carmen handed me an earpiece and a service tray. VIP Pavilion C is on the 3rd floor. Service elevator is behind the main stage. Don't use the guest elevators unless it's an emergency. I spent the morning learning the layout, memorizing service corridors and back entrances, identifying the blind spots where security cameras couldn't see. By noon, I had the entire convention center mapped in my head. At 3 p.m., Victoria Kane arrived. I was restocking champagne when I saw her walk into VIP Pavilion C like she owned the place. She looked exactly the same as she had in college. Blonde hair and a perfect bob designer clothes that probably cost more than I'd earned in the past month. The kind of confident smile that made people want to give her things. She was followed by a small entourage, 2 assistants, a photographer I didn't recognize, and Dylan. Dylan looked good. Better than good. He'd gotten a haircut, lost some weight, upgraded his wardrobe. Success suited him. I watched them set up for the networking reception, arranging displays and testing lighting. Victoria moved through the space like a general surveying a battlefield, giving orders and making adjustments with the kind of precise authority I remembered from our college days. Sophie? Carmen's voice crackled through my earpiece. Kane Luxury needs someone to coordinate with catering for tonight's event. You're our most experienced server. Can you handle client liaison? Absolutely. I straightened my shirt, grabbed a tablet, and walked over to Victoria's setup area. Excuse me, I said, keeping my voice professionally neutral. I'm Sophie from Catering Services. I understand you need to coordinate food and beverage for tonight's reception. Victoria looked up from a seating chart, and for a moment our eyes met directly. I held my breath, waiting for recognition. But Victoria's gaze passed over me without stopping. I was just another service worker, another invisible person in a black uniform. Thank you, she said, her voice carrying the kind of polite dismissal reserved for staff. We'll need champagne service starting at 6 p.m., appetizers circulating every 15 minutes. And please make sure the glasses are spotless. We're hosting some very important clients tonight. Of course. Any dietary restrictions I should know about? Nothing specific. Just make sure everything looks perfect. This event is crucial for Kane Luxury's expansion into the Austin market. I made notes on my tablet, playing the role of diligent catering staff. Will all your team be attending? I want to make sure we have accurate head count. My core team, yes, plus about 40 guests. Industry professionals, potential clients, local vendors we're hoping to work with. And your photographer. I glanced at Dylan, who was adjusting camera equipment nearby. Will he need any special accommodations? Dylan's not just our photographer. He's my business partner now. Make sure he has whatever he needs. Business partner. Not just photographer. Victoria had promoted Dylan, given him equity in Kane Luxury, made him part of her empire. Everything I'd lost, Dylan had gained. I'll take care of everything, I said. Is there anything else you need? Actually, yes. Victoria's voice dropped slightly. We've had some security concerns lately. Someone's been asking questions about our business practices, making accusations. If you notice anyone who seems to be watching our event too closely or asking unusual questions, please let hotel security know immediately. My blood ran cold. She knew I'd been investigating her. Somehow Victoria knew I was getting close to the truth about Maya. What kind of accusations? I asked, keeping my voice casual. Nothing substantiated. Just a disgruntled former competitor trying to cause problems. But we want to be cautious. Of course. I'll keep an eye out. Victoria smiled the same smile I remembered from college. Warm, genuine, completely fake. Thank you, Sophie. I appreciate your discretion. I walked away, my mind racing. Victoria was expecting me to investigate her. She was prepared for it, which meant I needed to be smarter, more careful, more strategic. I spent the rest of the afternoon observing from a distance, learning Victoria's routines and weaknesses. She was confident, but not careless, professional, but not untouchable, and she had no idea that her former best friend was serving her drinks. 6:30 p.m. Kane. Luxury networking reception. The reception was everything I'd expected from Victoria, flawlessly executed, subtly impressive, designed to make potential clients feel special while demonstrating Kane Luxury's attention to detail. I circulated through the crowd with champagne and appetizers, listening to conversations about market trends and vendor relationships. Victoria worked the room like a politician, charming potential clients and establishing connections with Austin's wedding industry elite. Dylan stayed mostly behind his camera, capturing candid moments and posed shots. He looked comfortable in his new role, confident in a way I hadn't seen when we were together. Sophie. A man's voice behind me made me turn. James Rodriguez stood about 6 feet tall, Hispanic early 40s, with the kind of watchful eyes that suggested law enforcement background. He wore the standard SXSW security uniform, but carried himself like someone in charge. Yes, I'm James' Festival Security Coordinator. Carmen mentioned you might have some insights about tonight's event. Something about security concerns. I glanced around, making sure Victoria wasn't watching. The client mentioned someone's been asking questions about their business, making accusations. They wanted me to report any suspicious behavior. What kind of accusations? She didn't specify, just said it was a disgruntled former competitor. James made a note in a small notebook. You notice anything unusual so far? Nothing obvious, but... I hesitated, then decided to take a risk. Can I ask you something hypothetically? If someone suspected a crime had been committed, something serious from a few years ago, what would be the best way to gather evidence? James studied me for a long moment. Hypothetically, you'd want to be very careful. Evidence obtained illegally can't be used in court. And if someone suspected you were investigating them, they might take steps to protect themselves. What kind of steps? Depends how much they have to lose, and how far they're willing to go to protect it. A chill ran down my spine. What if this hypothetical person had already killed someone to protect their secrets? Then you'd want police protection, and you'd want to be very, very careful about who you trust. Before I could respond, my earpiece crackled. Sophie, can you bring more champagne to the Kane luxury event? They're running low. On my way, I said into the radio. James handed me a business card. If your hypothetical situation becomes less hypothetical, call me. I used to work FBI. I know how to handle sensitive investigations. I pocketed the card and headed back to the service area, my mind spinning. James Rodriguez seemed trustworthy, but Victoria had been right about one thing: I needed to be careful about who I trusted. As I loaded champagne bottles onto a service cart, I noticed Dylan approaching the service area. Excuse me, he said to another server. Do you have a phone charger I could borrow? My battery died and I need to upload photos. I kept my head down, focusing on arranging glasses, but Dylan stepped closer to my cart. Sophie. His voice was uncertain. Sophie, is that... Sophia? I looked up slowly, met his eyes for the first time in 3 months. Hello, Dylan. His face went pale. What are you doing here? Why are you... He looked at my uniform, my name tag, my service cart. Jesus Christ, Sophia, you're working catering. I needed a job. Bankruptcy tends to limit your options. Dylan ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. You can't be here. Victoria will would have me arrested for serving champagne, deported for wearing a name tag. She'll think you're stalking her, following us, trying to cause problems. Am I wrong? Dylan glanced around, making sure we weren't overheard. Sophia, whatever you think happened with Eternal Moments, whatever you think Victoria did, you need to let it go. Move on. Build something new. Like you did. Yes, like I did. His voice was defensive. I found someone who appreciates me, who values what I bring to the partnership, who doesn't treat me like an employee. Someone who steals other people's businesses and destroys their lives. Victoria didn't steal anything. She competed. She won. That's how business works. And Maya was just business too. Dylan's expression changed. What are you talking about? Maya's death, the brake failure, the witness who saw someone near her car that morning. Sophia, you can't seriously think... I think Victoria killed my sister to eliminate competition, to clear the way for her expansion into Austin, to remove the one person who might have seen through her manipulation. Dylan stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Sophia Maya died in an accident, a tragic random accident. Victoria loved Maya. We all did. Did she? Because I've been thinking about that last dinner we had together. The 3 of us at South by Southwest. Maya was talking about her ideas for expanding Eternal Moments, her vision for the company. And Victoria looked angry, jealous, like Maya was threatening something she wanted. You're rewriting history, seeing things that weren't there. Am I because Victoria named her investment company Maya Holdings? Tell me that's not sick. Tell me that's not the behavior of someone with serious psychological issues. Dylan was quiet for a long moment. Even if that's true, even if Victoria had issues with Maya, that doesn't make her a killer. It makes her someone who grieves differently. Or someone who feels guilty. Sophie, Carmen's voice in my earpiece. Where's that champagne? I grabbed the cart handle. I have to go. But Dylan, ask yourself why Victoria really came back to Austin. Ask yourself why she targeted Eternal Moments specifically instead of building her own client base. Ask yourself why she needed to destroy me completely instead of just competing with me. I started pushing the cart toward the pavilion. Sophia, wait. Dylan caught my arm. Be careful. Whatever you think you're doing, whatever you're planning, be careful. Victoria's not the same person she was in college. Success has changed her, made her harder, more ruthless. Is that a warning or a threat? It's advice from someone who still cares about you, even if we can't be together anymore. I looked at his hand on my arm, remembered 1,000 other touches, 1,000 other moments when Dylan had been my anchor instead of my enemy. If you really cared about me, you'd help me find the truth about Maya. And if you really cared about me, you'd let this go before someone gets hurt. Someone already got hurt, Dylan. Maya's dead, and if Victoria killed her, then someone needs to pay for that. I pulled my arm free and pushed the cart toward the pavilion, feeling Dylan's eyes on my back. When I returned to the reception, Victoria was in the middle of a presentation about Kane Luxury's expansion plans. She stood at the front of the room, confident and poised, talking about bringing world-class wedding planning services to Austin's discerning clientele. We're not just planning weddings, she said to the assembled crowd. We're creating experiences, memories, dreams come true, and we're committed to Austin because this city deserves the very best. The audience applauded. Potential clients smiled and nodded. Everyone in the room was buying what Victoria was selling. Everyone except me. I stood in the back of the room, invisible in my black uniform, watching Victoria command the crowd. She was good at this. Brilliant, even. She understood people knew how to make them want things, how to convince them that Kane Luxury was the answer to their problems. The same skills that had turned Dylan against me. The same skills that might have convinced Maya to meet her in a parking garage 5 years ago. Victoria finished her presentation to enthusiastic applause. As the crowd dispersed into smaller conversations, she caught my eye from across the room. For a moment, something flickered in her expression. Not recognition exactly, but awareness. Like she was seeing me for the first time as more than just catering staff. She excused herself from a conversation and walked directly toward me. Sophie, right? Her voice was friendly, professional. How has everything been going tonight? Any issues I should know about? Everything's perfect. Your guests seem very happy. Good. Good. Victoria studied my face. You know you look familiar. Have we worked together before? You seem like someone I should remember. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. I don't think so. I would definitely remember working with Kane Luxury. Victoria tilted her head slightly. Sophie, what? What's your last name? Martinez, I said, using my mother's maiden name. Sophie Martinez. And you've been doing catering for how long? A few years, since I moved to Austin. From where's San Antonio? Victoria's eyes sharpened slightly. San Antonio. How interesting. I used to live there. What part of the city? Southtown, I said, naming a neighborhood I'd visited once. Really, I had an office on South Alamo Street. Maybe we crossed paths sometime. Maybe. Victoria smiled, but something about her expression had changed. Become more calculating. Well, Sophie Martinez from San Antonio, you've done excellent work tonight. I hope we'll have the chance to work together again. I hope so too. Victoria walked away, but I noticed she pulled out her phone immediately and started typing. I had the uncomfortable feeling that I'd just failed some kind of test. 11:00 p.m. Service corridor. After the reception ended, I helped clean up while Victoria's team packed their equipment. Dylan avoided looking at me, but I caught him glancing in my direction several times. Victoria supervised the breakdown with military precision, checking every detail before allowing her team to leave. When everything was loaded into their van, she said goodbye to Carmen and walked toward the exit. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. The convention center was mostly empty at 11 p.m., just security guards and cleaning crews finishing up after the first day of SXSW. I tracked Victoria through the lobby, staying far enough back that she wouldn't notice me. She walked to the parking garage attached to the convention center, moving with purpose toward a black Mercedes parked on level 3. I followed at a distance using concrete pillars and parked cars for cover. Victoria reached her car, then stopped, turned around. "You can come out now, Sophie, or should I say Sophia?" My blood turned to ice. Victoria was standing next to her Mercedes, arms crossed, looking directly at the pillar I was hiding behind. "I know you're there. I've known since you walked up to my setup this afternoon." I stepped out from behind the pillar, my hands shaking. "Hello, Victoria." "Hello, Sophia." Her voice was calm, almost amused. "Sophie Martinez from San Antonio. Very creative, though you might have chosen a better cover story if you'd done more research." "What do you mean? I've never had an office on South Alamo Street, and if you'd really lived in Southtown, you'd know that the neighborhood doesn't have the kind of restaurants and shops that would make it memorable to someone passing through." Victoria had been testing me, and I'd failed. "How long have you known?" I asked. "I suspected when I saw you this afternoon. You have the same mannerisms, the same way of holding yourself when you're nervous, but I wasn't sure until Dylan confirmed it." "Dylan told you?" "Dylan told me you'd accused me of murdering Maya, that you'd been investigating me for months, that you blamed me for the failure of Eternal Moments." Victoria pulled out her phone, showed me the screen. "He also told me you were probably here tonight, looking for evidence, trying to prove your conspiracy theories." Dylan had betrayed me again, warned Victoria that I was coming. "So what now?" I asked. "Now we have a conversation about Maya, about Eternal Moments, about why you can't seem to let the past stay buried." Victoria unlocked her car, gestured toward the passenger seat. "Get in." "I'm not getting in your car." "Sophia, you have two choices. You can get in my car and we can talk privately, or I can call security and have you arrested for stalking and harassment. Your choice." I looked around the parking garage. Empty except for us. No witnesses, no cameras in this particular corner. If Victoria had killed Maya, if she was capable of murder, then getting in her car was probably the stupidest thing I could do. But it might also be my only chance to get answers. I opened the passenger door and got in. Victoria started the engine, backed out of the parking space, and drove toward the garage exit. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Somewhere we can talk without interruption. About what really happened 5 years ago. About what you think you know. And about what's going to happen next." As we left the convention center, Victoria's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at the screen and smiled. "Dylan wants to know if I found you, if you're okay." She typed back quickly. "I told him you were fine, that we're going to work everything out." The way she said it made my blood run cold. "Victoria, whatever you're planning." "I'm not planning anything, Sophia. I'm just going to tell you the truth. The whole truth. About Maya. About Eternal Moments. About everything." She turned onto I-35, heading south out of Austin. "And then you're going to decide whether you can live with that truth, or whether you'd rather join your sister." The threat hung in the air between us as we drove into the Texas night. I pulled out my phone, tried to call James Rodriguez. No signal. Victoria noticed my attempt and smiled again. "Cell towers down in this area. Construction project. Very convenient for private conversations." I was trapped in a car with the woman who'd murdered my sister, driving toward an unknown destination with no way to call for help. But I was also closer to the truth than I'd ever been. And if Victoria wanted to tell me what really happened to Maya, I was going to listen, even if it killed me. Midnight, Lake Austin. Victoria drove us to a boat launch on Lake Austin, about 20 miles south of the city. The area was deserted, nothing but dark water and empty parking spaces under broken streetlights. She parked facing the lake and turned off the engine. "This is where Maya died," she said quietly. "Not the exact spot, but close enough. Lake Austin Boulevard curves around this area. She would have been driving about 70 miles per hour when her brakes failed." I stared out at the dark water, imagining Maya's last moments. The fear she must have felt when she realized she couldn't stop. The split second of impact before everything went black. "Why did you bring me here?" I asked. "Because I want you to understand something. Maya's death was an accident. A real accident. Not murder, not conspiracy, just a mechanical failure that happened at the worst possible time. Then why are we here? Why the secret conversation? Why all the dramatics? Victoria was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the lake. Because Maya's death wasn't random, she said finally. Someone did tamper with her brakes, but it wasn't me. My heart stopped. Someone loosened the brake lines on Maya's car the morning she died. Someone who knew her schedule knew she'd be driving to Lake Austin that afternoon. Someone who wanted her dead. Who? Victoria turned to look at me directly. You tell me, Sophia. Who else knew Maya was meeting a client that day? Who else had access to her car? Who else benefited from Maya's death? The implication hit me like a physical blow. You think I killed Maya? I think someone in your inner circle did. And I think you've been so focused on blaming me that you haven't asked the obvious questions about who actually had motive and opportunity. That's insane. Maya was my sister. I loved her. Did you? Because from where I was sitting, Maya was becoming a threat to your control of eternal moments. She was brilliant, ambitious, better with clients than you'd ever been. She was talking about expanding the business, bringing in new partners, taking eternal moments in directions you couldn't control. Maya wasn't a threat. She was an asset. Was she? Or was she competition? Victoria's voice was getting sharper. Maya had ideas, Sophia. Big ideas. She wanted to modernize eternal moments, bring in younger clients, expand into destination weddings. She wanted to make changes you weren't ready for. Those were good ideas. I supported Maya's vision for the company. Did you? Because Dylan told me something interesting. He said that in the weeks before Maya died, you'd been arguing with her about the direction of the business, about her role in the company, about whether she was ready for the responsibilities she wanted to take on. I remembered those conversations. Maya pushing for changes, me pushing back. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I was scared of losing control of the business we'd built. Those were normal business discussions. Were they? Because Dylan also said you'd been worried about money, about cash flow, about whether eternal moments could afford to expand the way Maya wanted. Victoria was right about the money concerns. Eternal moments had been growing, but growth required investment. Maya's expansion plans would have required taking on debt, bringing in outside investors, risking everything we'd built. Even if that's true, it doesn't mean I killed Maya. It means I was being cautious about business decisions. Or it means you saw Maya as a problem that needed to be solved. You're insane. Am I? Because here's what I think happened, Sophia. I think you realized Maya was going to outgrow you, that she was going to become the face of eternal moments while you got pushed into the background. So you decided to eliminate the competition. By killing my own sister. By making it look like an accident. Brake failure. Mechanical problems. No one to blame except bad luck. Victoria pulled out her phone, scrolled to a photo, showed me the screen. It was a picture of Maya's car after the accident. Twisted metal, shattered glass brake fluid pooled on the asphalt. I was at the scene that day, Victoria said. Called as soon as I heard about the accident. And I noticed something the police missed. She swiped to another photo. This one showed the underside of Maya's car focusing on the brake lines. See this? The brake in the brake line isn't clean. It's not the kind of failure you get from normal wear and tear. Someone cut through this line deliberately. My stomach dropped. How do you have these photos? Because I knew something was wrong. I knew Maya was careful with her car, had it serviced regularly. Brake failure on a 2-year-old Honda didn't make sense, so I started investigating. You investigated Maya's death. For 5 years, I've been gathering evidence, following leads, trying to figure out who killed her and why. Victoria's voice was intense now. And every piece of evidence points back to the same conclusion. Maya was murdered by someone close to her, someone who knew her routine, someone who had access to her car. And you think that someone was me. I think that someone was connected to you. Maybe Dylan. Maybe a business associate. Maybe even you yourself. Victoria leaned closer. But here's what I know for sure, Sophia. Maya's death wasn't random, and it wasn't an accident. Someone killed her, and that someone is sitting in this car. I stared at Victoria, my mind reeling. Everything I'd believed about Maya's death, about Victoria's motives, about the destruction of eternal moments. It was all wrong. If you really believe I killed Maya, why haven't you gone to the police? Because I don't have proof, just suspicion, just a pattern of behavior that suggests someone close to Maya wanted her dead. What pattern? Victoria started the car but didn't put it in drive. Just let the engine idle while she organized her thoughts. Maya called me the night before she died, she said finally. She was scared. Said someone had been asking questions about her work, her schedule, her plans for eternal moments. She thought someone was investigating her. Who? She didn't know. But she was worried enough to call me. Worried enough to ask if she could come stay with me in San Antonio for a few days. Get away from Austin until she figured out what was going on. Maya never told me she was scared. Because she was scared of someone close to her. Someone she couldn't trust. Victoria turned to look at me. Someone like you, the accusation hung in the air between us. Victoria, I didn't kill Maya. I would never hurt Maya. She was my sister, my partner, my best friend. Then who did? It was the question I'd been avoiding for 5 years. The question I'd been too afraid to ask because I was terrified of the answer. Who else had known Maya's schedule that day? Who else had access to her car? Who else might have wanted her dead? And suddenly, with horrible clarity, I knew. Dylan, I whispered. Victoria nodded slowly. Dylan? But why Dylan loved Maya? They were friends. Were they? Or was Dylan in love with Maya? And when she didn't return his feelings, when she threatened to expose his feelings to you, did he decide to eliminate the problem? I thought back to the weeks before Maya died. Dylan had been spending more time with Maya, helping her with client meetings, offering to drive her to events. I'd thought he was being supportive, helping my sister grow into her role at Eternal Moments. But what if it had been something else? What if Dylan had been pursuing Maya, and Maya had rejected him? Dylan wouldn't kill someone over unrequited love. Wouldn't he think about it, Sophia? Dylan's a photographer. He understands timing, precision, attention to detail. He would know how to sabotage a car without leaving obvious evidence. He would know Maya's schedule. And he would know that with Maya dead, he'd have your full attention again. The pieces were falling into place, creating a picture I didn't want to see. If Dylan killed Maya, then why did he help you destroy Eternal Moments? Why would he turn against me? Because I figured out what he'd done, and I made him a deal. Victoria's voice was calm, matter-of-fact, like she was discussing a business transaction. I told Dylan I knew he'd killed Maya, told him I had evidence, and I offered him a choice. He could go to prison for murder, or he could help me destroy the business that Maya died for. Help me make sure her death actually meant something. You blackmailed him. I gave him an opportunity to make amends, to ensure that Maya's vision for Eternal Moments, her plans for expansion and growth, would live on through Kane luxury events. By stealing our clients and destroying our reputation. By absorbing the business Maya would have built if she'd lived. By carrying on her legacy. Victoria was insane. Completely, dangerously insane. She'd convinced herself that destroying Eternal Moments was some kind of tribute to Maya's memory. Victoria, you're sick. Maya wouldn't have wanted this. She wouldn't have wanted you to destroy the business she loved, hurt the people she cared about. Maya wanted change, Sophia. She wanted innovation. She wanted Eternal Moments to be something bigger than your small, cautious vision could accommodate. I'm giving her that. Through Kane luxury, Maya's ideas are finally being implemented. Maya's ideas, you mean the expansion plans you stole from our files, the vendor relationships you poached, the marketing strategies you copied. I mean the vision Maya shared with me in our last conversation, her dreams for what wedding planning could become in Austin, her plans for creating something revolutionary. Victoria pulled out her phone again, scrolled to a voice message. Maya sent me this the night she died. Listen. She pressed play. Maya's voice filled the car, clear and excited and alive. Victoria, I had the most amazing idea today. What if we could create a wedding planning cooperative? Multiple planners working together, sharing resources, supporting each other instead of competing. We could revolutionize the industry in Austin. Make it about collaboration instead of cutthroat competition. I think Sophia would love the idea, but I want to run it past you first. Call me back when you get this. The message ended. I sat in stunned silence, hearing my dead sister's voice, understanding finally what Victoria had convinced herself she was doing. Maya wanted collaboration, Victoria. She wanted cooperation. She wouldn't have wanted you to destroy Eternal Moments. She would have wanted you to work with us. I tried. I reached out to you dozens of times after Maya died, tried to discuss her ideas, her vision for the industry, but you never responded to my messages. What messages? I never got any messages from you. Victoria stared at me. What do you mean you never got any messages? After Maya's funeral, you disappeared. No calls, no texts, no emails. Nothing. I tried to contact you, but you'd blocked my number. I never blocked your number. I sent you dozens of messages, emails about Maya's cooperative idea, texts about getting together to plan implementation, voicemails asking why you weren't responding. Victoria pulled out her phone, scrolled through old messages, showed me the screen. Dozens of texts to my number, all marked as delivered, but never read. All messages I'd never received. Someone intercepted our communications, I said slowly. Someone who didn't want us talking to each other after Maya died. Dylan, Victoria whispered. We stared at each other in the dark car, understanding finally clicking into place. Dylan had killed Maya to prevent her from exposing his feelings, or maybe just from growing beyond his control. Then he'd systematically prevented Victoria and me from communicating, from comparing notes, from figuring out what had really happened. He'd isolated us from each other while positioning himself as the victim of circumstances, the loyal partner trying to hold eternal moments together after Maya's tragic death. Victoria, I said quietly, if Dylan killed Maya and blocked our communications, then everything that's happened since the destruction of eternal moments, your expansion to Austin, even this conversation, it's all been part of his plan. What do you mean? Think about it. Dylan knew I'd eventually start investigating Maya's death. Knew I'd suspect you because you disappeared right after the funeral. So he encouraged that suspicion, fed me information that made you look guilty, then used my paranoia to justify leaving me and joining Kane Luxury. But I did destroy eternal moments. I did steal your clients. Because Dylan convinced you I was ignoring Maya's vision. Because he made you believe I was the enemy. Because he turned us against each other instead of letting us work together the way Maya wanted. Victoria's face went pale. Oh my God, he's been playing us against each other for 5 years. And now he has everything he wanted. You, me, and Maya's legacy all under his control. My phone buzzed. Text message. From Dylan. Hey, Victoria said you two were catching up. Just wanted to make sure everything's okay. You seemed upset earlier. I showed Victoria the message. He's checking on us, I said, making sure his plan is working. Victoria stared at the phone. What do we do now? Now we do what Maya would have wanted. We work together. I typed back to Dylan. Everything's fine. Victoria and I are just talking through some old issues. We'll be back soon. Good. Glad you two are finally communicating. Maybe now we can all move forward. The casual cruelty of it, the way Dylan was pretending to facilitate reconciliation between the two women he'd spent 5 years manipulating, made my blood boil. Victoria, I need to know something. Do you still have evidence about Maya's car? The photos, the brake line analysis? Everything. I've been building a case for 5 years. Then we're going to take Dylan down. Together. The way Maya would have wanted. Victoria started the car, put it in drive. Where are we going? Back to SXSW. To confront Dylan. To make him confess. Sophia, if Dylan killed Maya and has been manipulating us for 5 years, he's not going to just confess because we ask nicely. Then we make him confess. We have evidence. We have each other. And we have something Dylan doesn't expect. What's that? Maya's cooperative idea. We're going to implement it. Starting with cooperation between Kane Luxury and whatever's left of eternal moments. Victoria smiled for the first time since I'd known her as an adult. Maya would like that? Maya would love that. We drove back toward Austin, 2 former best friends turned enemies turned allies, united finally by the truth about my sister's death and the determination to get justice for the woman we'd both loved. Dylan Harper had destroyed our friendship, stolen our businesses, and murdered my sister, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated the power of women working together, and Maya's vision of cooperation was about to become his worst nightmare. 1:30 a.m., Austin Convention Center. Victoria and I sat in her Mercedes in the convention center parking garage planning our next move. The building was mostly empty, just security guards and cleaning crews working the overnight shift. We need to get Dylan alone, I said. Somewhere he can't run, can't lie, can't manipulate the situation. His hotel room. Too risky. If things go wrong, if he gets violent, no one would hear us scream. Victoria pulled out her phone, scrolled through messages. He texted me 20 minutes ago, said he was going back to VIP Pavilion C to get some equipment he forgot. He has an access card. Perfect. Public space, but private enough for a confession. Sophia, what if we're wrong? What if Dylan didn't kill Maya? What if we're about to destroy an innocent man's life? I looked at Victoria, really looked at her for the first time in 5 years. The woman I'd thought was my enemy. The woman who'd spent 5 years investigating my sister's death, while I'd spent 5 years blaming myself. Then we apologize and figure out who really killed Maya. But Victoria, I don't think we're wrong. Everything fits. Dylan had motive, opportunity, and means, and he's the only person who could have blocked our communications afterward. Victoria nodded slowly. Okay, but we do this smart. We record everything. We get a confession on tape, and we have an exit strategy if things go wrong. Agreed. We walked into the convention center using Victoria's vendor credentials to bypass security. The building felt different at night, bigger, emptier, full of shadows and echoes. VIP Pavilion C was on the 3rd floor, accessible by service elevator. We rode up in silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. The pavilion doors were propped open. Light spilled out into the hallway, along with the sound of someone moving equipment. Dylan was there, packing photography gear into cases, completely absorbed in his work. Victoria and I exchanged a look. She pulled out her phone, started recording. Dylan, I called out, stepping into the pavilion. He looked up, surprised. Sophia, what are you doing here? I thought you and Victoria were... He stopped, noticing Victoria behind me. What's going on? We need to talk, Victoria said. About Maya. Dylan's face went carefully neutral. What about Maya? About what really happened the day she died, I said. Maya died in a car accident. Brake failure. We've been through this, Sophia. Have we? Because Victoria has some interesting evidence about Maya's brakes. Evidence that suggests the failure wasn't accidental. Dylan continued packing equipment, but his movements had become more deliberate, more controlled. What kind of evidence? Victoria stepped forward. Photos from the crash scene, analysis of the brake lines, witness statements about someone approaching Maya's car the morning she died. And Dylan's voice was still calm, but I could hear tension underneath. And everything points to murder, I said. Someone deliberately sabotaged Maya's car. Someone who knew her schedule, had access to the parking garage, and wanted her dead. Dylan stopped packing, straightened up slowly. That's a serious accusation, Sophia. I hope you have more than suspicion and coincidence. We have motive, Victoria said. Maya rejected your advances, threatened to tell Sophia about your inappropriate behavior. You couldn't handle the rejection. That's not... Dylan started, then stopped himself. Maya never rejected me because I never made advances. We were friends, colleagues. Were you? I asked. Because I remember you spending a lot of time with Maya in the weeks before she died, offering to drive her places, help with client meetings, work late with her on projects. I was being supportive. She was new to the business. Or you were pursuing her, Victoria said. And when she didn't respond the way you wanted, when she threatened to expose your behavior to Sophia, you decided to eliminate the problem. Dylan was quiet for a long moment, studying our faces. You two have really convinced yourselves of this, haven't you? That I'm some kind of monster who killed Maya over unrequited love. Convince us otherwise, I said. Dylan smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Okay, let's say hypothetically that someone did kill Maya. Let's say her brakes were sabotaged deliberately. You really think I'm capable of murder? I think you're capable of a lot of things I never imagined, I said. Fair enough. But here's what I don't understand about your theory. If I killed Maya because she rejected me, why would I stay with you? Why would I continue our relationship, build a business together, plan a wedding? Wouldn't I be afraid you'd figure out what I'd done? Victoria and I exchanged a glance. It was a good point, one we hadn't fully considered. Maybe you thought you could control the narrative, Victoria said. Keep Sophia focused on grief instead of investigation. Or maybe, Dylan said, his voice getting harder, your theory is completely wrong. Maybe Maya wasn't killed because someone was obsessed with her. Maybe she was killed because she was a threat to someone else. What do you mean? I asked. Dylan set down the camera case he'd been holding, turned to face us directly. Maya wasn't just ambitious, Sophia. She was observant, intelligent, Good at reading people and situations. Good at noticing things that didn't add up. Things like what? Like discrepancies in Eternal Moments financial records, like clients paying in cash when they should have been paying by check. Like vendor payments that didn't match the invoices. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Maya was discovering that someone had been embezzling from Eternal Moments for months. Skimming cash payments, inflating vendor costs, creating fake expenses. She'd been building a case gathering evidence. That's impossible. I would have noticed financial irregularities. Would you? You were busy with big picture strategy, client relationships, business development. You trusted other people to handle the day-to-day finances. Dylan pulled out his phone, scrolled to a folder labeled Maya. She sent me these 3 days before she died, asked me to look at them, see if I noticed the same patterns she was seeing. He showed me the screen, spreadsheets, bank records, invoice comparisons. Someone was stealing from Eternal Moments Sophia, someone with access to the books, the bank accounts, the vendor relationships, someone Maya trusted completely. I stared at the financial records, my mind racing. The numbers didn't make sense. Payments to vendors I'd never heard of. Cash deposits that didn't match our client list. Discrepancies that suggested systematic theft over months. Who? I whispered. Dylan turned to look at Victoria. Ask her. Victoria's face had gone pale. Dylan, what are you saying? I'm saying Maya figured out that Victoria Kane had been embezzling from Eternal Moments for 6 months before her death, using her access as your former best friend, her knowledge of your business practices, her connections with vendors to steal money systematically. That's insane, Victoria said. I wasn't even living in Austin when Maya died. I was in San Antonio. Were you? Because Maya's research showed someone making regular trips between San Antonio and Austin. Someone who knew exactly when you'd be out of the office when the books wouldn't be monitored closely. Dylan swiped to another document on his phone. Maya tracked license plates in the Eternal Moments parking lot, matched them to rental car companies, found records of someone renting cars in San Antonio and driving them to Austin twice a week for 3 months. He showed me a photo of a rental agreement, Victoria's name, Victoria's signature. Maya was going to confront you the day she died, Dylan said to Victoria. She'd called you the night before, asked to meet, said she had something important to discuss about Eternal Moments finances. Victoria was shaking now. That's not, Maya sent me a voice message that morning, Dylan continued. Said she was nervous about the meeting but excited to finally expose the theft. She thought you'd been stealing money to fund Kane luxury events, using Eternal Moments as your personal bank account while pretending to be Sophia's friend. I stared at Victoria, remembering our conversation in the car, how she'd claimed Dylan was the killer, how she'd manipulated me into believing her story. Victoria, I said quietly, did you kill Maya? No, Sophia, you have to believe me. I never stole money from Eternal Moments. I never hurt Maya. This is all lies, manipulation. Then explain the rental car records, Dylan said. Explain the financial discrepancies. Explain why you disappeared right after Maya died instead of staying to help Sophia through her grief. I left because I was scared, because Maya's death looked suspicious and I was afraid someone would blame me. Someone should blame you, Dylan said. Because you did kill her. Maybe not intentionally, but you killed her. What do you mean? I asked. Dylan put his phone away, leaned against a table. Victoria was stealing from Eternal Moments. Maya figured it out. Victoria agreed to meet Maya the morning she died, probably planning to convince her to keep quiet. But when Maya insisted on going to the police, Victoria panicked, followed Maya to the parking garage, sabotaged her brakes. But Victoria was at Kane Luxury Events that morning in San Antonio. Was she? Or was she in Austin using a rental car wearing a disguise? Maya died at 3:47 p.m., but her brakes were sabotaged much earlier. Someone could have driven from Austin to San Antonio and established an alibi after the sabotage was complete. I looked at Victoria, trying to read her face, trying to understand if Dylan was telling the truth or if this was another manipulation. Victoria, where were you the morning Maya died? I was in San Antonio, in my office, working on client proposals. Can anyone verify that? Victoria hesitated. I was working alone. It was early before my staff arrived. How convenient, Dylan said. Dylan, shut up. I turned back to Victoria. Victoria, look at me. Did you steal money from Eternal Moments? Victoria was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Sophia, I can explain. Did you steal money from Eternal Moments? Yes, she whispered. But not the way Dylan's describing it. I borrowed money. I was planning to pay it back. Kane Luxury was struggling, and I needed capital to keep the business afloat. I thought I could take a short-term loan from Eternal Moments and replace it before anyone noticed. How much? I asked. $40,000. Over 6 months. $40,000. No wonder our cash flow had been tight. No wonder we'd been struggling to meet vendor payments. And Maya found out. Called me, said she'd been reviewing the books and had questions about some discrepancies. I panicked. Agreed to meet her. Thought I could convince her to give me time to pay the money back. But Maya wouldn't agree to that. Maya said stealing was stealing, that she had to tell you what I'd done, that Eternal Moments couldn't survive if employees were embezzling from the company. Victoria was sobbing now. She said our friendship didn't matter compared to protecting your business. So you killed her? No, I didn't kill her. I followed her to the parking garage. Yes, I begged her to reconsider to give me a chance to make things right. But when she refused, when she said she was going to tell you everything, I just left. I drove back to San Antonio. I never touched her car. Then who sabotaged Maya's brakes? I asked. Victoria and I both turned to look at Dylan. He was smiling. You want to know who killed Maya? He said. I did. The confession hit me like a physical blow. What, I killed Maya Chen, sabotaged her brakes, watched her drive away knowing she was going to die. Victoria stared at him in horror. Dylan, why are you... Because I'm tired of this game. Tired of watching you two blame each other for something I did. Tired of pretending to be the innocent victim of circumstances. Dylan walked to the pavilion entrance, closed the doors, locked them from the inside. Dylan, I said carefully, unlock the doors. Not until we finish this conversation. Not until you understand what really happened 5 years ago. We understand. You killed Maya. You're confessing. I'm confessing to murder, but I'm also explaining why it was necessary. Dylan pulled out a chair, sat down facing us. Maya was going to destroy everything, Sophia. Everything we'd built together. Everything we'd planned for our future. How by exposing Victoria's theft? By exposing mine. The words hung in the air between us. Victoria wasn't the only one stealing from Eternal Moments, Dylan said. I'd been skimming money for over a year. Cash payments, inflated vendor costs, fake expense reports. Maya's investigation was going to expose all of it. Why? I whispered. Why would you steal from our company? Because it wasn't our company, Sophia. It was your company. I was just the photographer, the boyfriend, the supporting player in your success story. Dylan's voice was getting harder, more bitter. Do you know what it's like to work beside someone for years to contribute just as much as they do and watch them get all the credit? Do you know what it's like to have brilliant ideas and watch someone else implement them and claim ownership? Dylan, you were my equal partner, on paper, but not in reality. Clients came to Eternal Moments because of your reputation, your connections, your vision. I was just the guy who took pretty pictures. That's not true. Isn't it? When people talked about Eternal Moments, whose name did they mention first? When magazines wrote articles about our success, whose photo was on the cover? When we went to industry events, who did people want to talk to? I couldn't answer because Dylan was right. Eternal Moments had been built around my reputation, my network, my expertise. Dylan was talented essential, but he'd always been the junior partner. So you stole money. I took what I deserved, what I'd earned through years of being overlooked and undervalued. How much in $150,000 over 18 months? The number was staggering. No wonder our finances had been unstable. Dylan had been systematically looting our company while I'd been focused on growth and client satisfaction. Maya found out. She was brilliant with numbers, better than either of us realized. She tracked every discrepancy, every irregularity, every suspicious transaction. She had enough evidence to send me to prison for embezzlement. So you killed her. So I eliminated the threat to our future, to your future, Sophia. If Maya had exposed my theft, it would have destroyed Eternal Moments, destroyed your reputation, destroyed everything you'd worked for. Dylan stood up, started pacing. I didn't want to kill Maya. I liked Maya, but she wouldn't listen to reason, wouldn't agree to keep quiet in exchange for restitution. She said crimes had to have consequences. Crimes do have consequences. Not if no one finds out about them. Maya's death saved eternal moments, Sophia. Saved your career. Saved our relationship. Maya's death destroyed everything. Maya's death gave us 3 more years together. 3 years to build something beautiful before Victoria came back and ruined it. I stared at Dylan, trying to reconcile the man I'd loved with the monster he was revealing himself to be. How, I asked. How did you sabotage Maya's car? Same way Victoria claimed someone else did. Loosened the brake lines in the parking garage. Timed it so the failure would occur during her drive to Lake Austin. And then I comforted you through your grief. Helped you rebuild eternal moments without Maya. Made myself indispensable so you'd never question my loyalty. Dylan pulled out his phone, showed me a video file. I recorded Maya's death, he said. Followed her to Lake Austin. Watched her realize the brakes weren't working. Filmed the crash. You're sick. I'm practical. The video was insurance. Proof that Maya's death was accidental if anyone ever questioned it. Show me. Sophia, you don't want to see... Show me. Dylan played the video. Grainy footage shot from a distance showing Maya's car weaving erratically on Lake Austin Boulevard. The moment of impact. The silence afterward. I watched my sister die, knowing now that her death had been planned, calculated, filmed by someone she'd trusted. You bastard, I whispered. I'm a survivor, and I saved you from a scandal that would have destroyed your life. You destroyed my life anyway, by stealing from the company, by manipulating Victoria into thinking she was guilty, by playing us against each other for 5 years. I gave you 5 years of success before external forces beyond our control brought it down. External forces Victoria was responding to your manipulation. She came to Austin because she thought I was ignoring Maya's vision, because she thought I was the enemy. You orchestrated all of it, Dylan shrugged. Victoria was useful. Her guilt over the embezzlement made her easy to manipulate. I convinced her that destroying eternal moments was poetic justice for Maya's death. And me, what was I to you? You were the woman I loved, until you became someone who cared more about business than people, someone who took my contributions for granted. So you decided to destroy me too. I decided to start over with someone who appreciated me, someone who valued my contributions, someone who understood partnership. Victoria, who built Kane Luxury Events on the foundation I provided? Who made me an equal partner instead of a supporting player? I looked at Victoria, who was staring at Dylan in horror. Victoria, did you know about Maya, about Dylan's role in her death? No, she whispered. I thought I believed. She turned to Dylan. You let me think I was responsible for Maya's death. You let me carry that guilt for 5 years. You were responsible. Your theft created the situation that made Maya's death necessary. Maya's death was never necessary, Victoria screamed. She was innocent. She was trying to protect Sophia's business. Maya was a threat. To me, to you, to the stability of eternal moments. Her death solved multiple problems simultaneously. Dylan walked to a window, looked out at the Austin skyline. Besides, her death wasn't in vain. Through Kane Luxury Events, Maya's vision for the wedding industry is finally being implemented. She wanted innovation, collaboration, growth. She's getting all of that. Built on her grave, I said. Built on her foundation. Maya's ideas, Maya's passion, Maya's brilliance, all channeled through a business that can actually implement her vision. You're insane. I'm successful. Kane Luxury Events is the biggest wedding planning company in Texas. We have clients in 6 cities, partnerships with major venues, a reputation for excellence. Maya would be proud. Maya would be disgusted. Dylan turned back to face us. Maya's dead, Sophia. She doesn't get to have opinions anymore. But the living get to decide how to honor her memory. By destroying the people she loved. By building something bigger than what she could have created alone. I pulled out my phone, realized I'd been recording the entire conversation. Dylan, you just confessed to murder. On tape. Victoria and I are witnesses. Are you? Dylan smiled. Because who's going to believe 2 women with obvious mental health issues and financial motives to lie? What do you mean? I mean, Victoria's been obsessed with Maya's death for 5 years. Everyone knows that. And you, Sophia, you've been struggling with grief, bankruptcy, professional failure. Clearly unstable. Dylan pulled out his own phone. I've been documenting both of your concerning behaviors for months. Victoria's stalking your paranoid accusations. Tonight's confrontation is just the culmination of a shared psychotic episode. It's my word against yours. Successful businessman versus two disturbed women with a history of making false accusations. Dylan walked toward the locked door. Now I'm going to leave. You two can stay here and figure out your next move. But if you try to go to the police with these recordings, if you try to destroy what Victoria and I have built together, you'll discover that I'm much better at playing this game than either of you realized. Dylan, wait. He stopped, turned back. What happens now? I asked. Now you disappear. Both of you. Leave Austin. Start over somewhere else. Forget about Maya. Forget about eternal moments. Forget about Kane luxury events. And if we don't, Dylan's smile disappeared. Then you'll join Maya, permanently. He unlocked the door, walked out, locked it again from the other side. Victoria and I were trapped in VIP Pavilion C with Dylan's confession on tape and no way to escape. 2:45 a.m., VIP Pavilion C. We have to get out of here, Victoria said, pulling at the locked door. Dylan's not going to just let us walk away, not after confessing to murder. I was checking windows looking for another exit. The pavilion was on the 3rd floor, no fire escape, no balcony. We were effectively imprisoned. Victoria, your phone. Can you call security? No signal. He must have installed a jammer. Then we used the landline. I found a house phone near the service area. Dead. He cut the phone lines too, Victoria said. Dylan's been planning this confrontation. I sat down heavily in a chair, the weight of everything finally hitting me. Maya's dead because of money, because Dylan was stealing from our company and couldn't handle being exposed. And I'm the reason Maya discovered the theft, Victoria said. If I hadn't been embezzling, if Maya hadn't been investigating financial irregularities. Victoria, stop. You didn't kill Maya. Dylan did. You were stealing, yes, but theft isn't murder. Theft led to murder. Maya died because she was trying to protect you from both of us. We sat in silence for a moment, processing 5 years of lies, manipulation, and misdirected blame. Sophia, Victoria said quietly, I need to tell you something. About the night Maya died. About her last phone call. What about it? Maya didn't just call to confront me about the embezzlement. She also called to warn me about Dylan. My blood went cold. What do you mean? She said Dylan had been asking strange questions about you, about your mental state, your financial situation, your future plans. She thought he was planning to leave you. Leave me for who? For me. Maya thought Dylan had feelings for me. Thought he was using the embezzlement investigation as an excuse to get close to me, to position himself as your protector, while actually planning to steal both your business and your boyfriend. I stared at Victoria. Did Dylan have feelings for you? I don't know. Maybe. He was very charming when he reached out after Maya died. Very supportive. Very understanding about my guilt and grief. And you fell for it. I fell for it. But Sophia Maya saw through it. In that last phone call, she said something that didn't make sense at the time, but makes perfect sense now. What? She said. Be careful, Victoria. Dylan's not who you think he is. He's not who any of us think he is. And I'm afraid of what he might do if he feels cornered. Maya had known. Somehow my brilliant sister had figured out that Dylan was dangerous, that he was capable of violence when threatened, and she'd tried to warn Victoria. Maya was trying to save both of us, Gay said. Maya was trying to save everyone, even Dylan. She said she was going to give him a chance to confess voluntarily before going to the police. That's why Dylan killed her, because Maya believed in second chances and redemption, in giving people opportunities to do the right thing. And Dylan saw that compassion as weakness to be exploited. A sound outside the pavilion made us both freeze. Footsteps in the hallway, getting closer. Dylan's coming back, Victoria whispered. We looked around frantically for weapons, hiding places, anything that might give us an advantage. The pavilion was mostly empty space with a few tables and chairs. No weapons, no cover. The footsteps stopped outside the door. A key turned in the lock. Victoria and I moved to opposite sides of the room, trying to create tactical distance. The door opened. James Rodriguez stepped inside, wearing his security uniform and carrying a radio. Ms. Chen, Ms. Kane, are you all right? I almost collapsed with relief. James, how did you find us? I've been monitoring the building's security feeds. Saw you two enter the pavilion hours ago, then noticed Dylan Harper lock you inside and leave. He looked around the empty space. What's going on here? Dylan confessed to murdering my sister 5 years ago, I said. We have it recorded, but he's planning to kill us to prevent exposure. James's expression hardened. Where is he now? We don't know. He left about an hour ago. Okay, first priority is getting you somewhere safe. Then we deal with Harper. James ushered us out of the pavilion into the service elevator down to the main floor. The convention center was still mostly empty, just cleaning crews and security guards. My car's in the parking garage, James said. We'll drive to Austin PD, turn over your recordings, get protection details arranged. We walked through the lobby toward the parking garage, Victoria and I flanking James, all of us constantly scanning for signs of Dylan. The garage was dimly lit, full of shadows and blind spots. Our footsteps echoed off concrete walls. Which level? I asked. 3. My car's in the back corner. We took the stairwell up to level 3, James leading the way with his hand on his radio. Level 3 was nearly empty, just a handful of cars scattered across the expanse of concrete. There, James said, pointing to a black SUV parked near the far wall. We walked toward the SUV, our footsteps loud in the silence. We were 20 feet away when Dylan stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. He was holding a gun. Stop right there, he said calmly. James immediately moved in front of Victoria and me, his hand moving toward his weapon. Dylan Harper, you're under arrest for the murder of Maya Chen, James said. Drop the weapon and put your hands behind your head. Dylan laughed. You're not a real cop anymore, Rodriguez. You're festival security. You have no authority to arrest anyone. FBI, James said. Special Agent James Rodriguez, currently undercover investigating financial crimes at SXSW. My heart leaped. James was FBI. We had federal protection. Bullshit, Dylan said. If you were FBI, you'd have backup. You'd have called for support before coming up here alone. Backup's on the way. Local PD, federal marshals, SWAT if necessary. You're surrounded, Harper. No, I'm not, because I've been monitoring police radio frequencies all night. No one's coming. No one knows we're here. And no one's going to find your bodies until morning. Dylan raised the gun, aimed it at James. Dylan, stop, I said. You don't want to kill a federal agent. That's death penalty territory. I don't want to kill anyone, but Maya proved that sometimes killing people is necessary to protect what matters. What matters to you, money, reputation, Victoria's affection. What matters is the life Victoria and I have built together. Kane luxury events, our partnership, our future. Built on theft and murder. Built on vision and determination. Maya's vision channeled through people who could actually implement it. Dylan kept the gun trained on James while addressing Victoria. Victoria, you understand, don't you? Everything we've accomplished, everything we've built, it's what Maya would have wanted. Her ideas, her passion, her brilliance, all given form through Kane luxury. Maya would have wanted just as Dylan. She would have wanted truth. Maya wanted innovation, collaboration, success. She has all of that through us. She has none of that because she's dead, because you killed her. Dylan's expression hardened. Maya's death was a necessary sacrifice for a greater good. Her legacy lives on through our work. Her legacy lives on through the people who loved her, I said, through the memory of her kindness, her intelligence, her belief in second chances. Pretty words, Sophia, but legacy is about impact, not sentiment. Maya's impact on the wedding industry is greater now than it ever would have been if she'd lived. Dylan gestured with the gun toward James's radio. Agent Rodriguez, please remove your radio and weapon and slide them across the floor. James hesitated. Do it now or I shoot Sophia first and work my way up. James slowly reached for his radio, unclipped it from his belt, and slid it across the concrete. Then he drew his service weapon, placed it on the ground, and kicked it toward Dylan. Dylan picked up the gun and radio, never taking his eyes off us. Now what? Victoria asked. Now we solve this problem permanently. 3 unfortunate victims of a late-night robbery gone wrong. Very tragic. Very believable. Dylan, please, I said. We can work this out. We can't work this out, Sophia. You've heard too much. You know too much. And you're too stubborn to let it go. Dylan pulled out his phone with his free hand, started typing. I'm texting Kane Luxury's emergency contacts. letting them know that Victoria and I encountered a dangerous situation at SXSW, that we're safe but will need to relocate the business for security reasons. Where are you planning to relocate? James asked. Somewhere without extradition treaties. Somewhere Victoria and I can continue Maya's work without interference from the past. You're talking about fleeing the country. I'm talking about protecting our investment. Kane Luxury Events represents millions of dollars in contracts, relationships, reputation. We can't let that be destroyed by ancient history. Dylan finished typing, put his phone away. Victoria, are you ready to leave Austin? Victoria stared at him. Dylan, you just confessed to murder. You're holding 3 people at gunpoint. You're talking about fleeing the country. This isn't the partnership I agreed to. This is exactly the partnership you agreed to. Kane Luxury Events was built on Maya's death, funded by your theft, sustained by my manipulation. You knew that. Deep down, you always knew that. I thought Maya's death was an accident. You wanted to think it was an accident, because thinking it was murder would make you complicit. I'm not complicit in murder. Aren't you? You benefited from Maya's death. You used her ideas to build your business. You stole her concepts, her vision, her legacy. You're as guilty as I am. Victoria was crying now. That's not true. It's absolutely true. And now you have a choice. Come with me and continue building on Maya's foundation, or stay here and face the consequences of everything we've done together. What consequences? Dylan gestured at James and me. Witnesses who can destroy everything. Evidence that can send us both to prison. A past that won't stay buried. So you're going to kill us. I'm going to eliminate the threat to our future. Just like I eliminated Maya when she threatened our past. Our past? I stared at Dylan. Maya wasn't threatening your past. She was trying to protect my business from thieves and embezzlers. Maya was threatening the life Victoria and I had planned together. She was going to expose crimes that would have sent Victoria to prison and left me without the partner I'd chosen. Partner, you were engaged to me. I was engaged to who you used to be. Before grief made you distant. Before business made you selfish. Before success made you arrogant. Dylan's voice was getting colder, more clinical. Victoria understood me in ways you never did. She appreciated my contributions. She valued my input. She made me feel essential instead of auxiliary. So you decided to kill my sister and frame Victoria for embezzlement so you could steal both my business and my best friend. I decided to create circumstances that would allow Victoria and me to be together without interference from your family or your guilt. By murdering Maya, by removing an obstacle to our happiness. Victoria stepped forward. Dylan, stop. Just stop. Maya wasn't an obstacle. She was a person. A brilliant, kind, innocent person who died because you couldn't handle being exposed as a thief. Maya died because she couldn't understand that sometimes personal relationships matter more than abstract principles like honesty and justice. Honesty and justice aren't abstract principles. They're the foundation of civilization. They're luxuries for people who don't have anything real to lose. Dylan raised the gun, aimed it directly at Victoria. I'm not going to argue philosophy with you, Victoria. I'm going to give you one last choice. Come with me now, or die with them. Dylan, please. Choose. Now. Victoria looked at Dylan, then at James and me. I could see her wrestling with the decision. Fear versus loyalty. Survival versus justice. I choose them, she said quietly. Dylan's face went blank. What I choose, Sophia and Agent Rodriguez. I choose honesty and justice over theft and murder. I choose Maya's real legacy over the perverted version you've created. Victoria, if you stay here, you'll go to prison. Embezzlement accessory to murder conspiracy. You'll lose everything. I'll lose everything I built on lies, but I'll keep my soul. Dylan stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. So be it. He pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the parking garage like thunder, but Victoria was still standing. James Rodriguez was on the ground, blood spreading from his shoulder. Warning shot, Dylan said. Next one goes center mass unless all 3 of you get in my car. Now. James! I dropped to my knees beside the wounded FBI agent. How bad is it? Shoulder, he gasped. Hurts like hell, but not fatal. Yet. Dylan walked closer, keeping the gun trained on us. In the car, all of you. We're going for a drive. Where? Victoria asked. Lake Austin, where Maya died. Seems appropriate that you'll join her there. The plan was becoming clear. Dylan was going to kill us at the same location where he'd killed Maya. Make it look like an accident. Or maybe a murder-suicide. 3 troubled people who couldn't live with their guilt. Dylan, I said, helping James to his feet. You don't have to do this. We can disappear. Leave Austin. Never speak about what happened here. I don't trust you to keep that promise, Sophia, and I can't spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. Then let Victoria and James go. This is between you and me. They don't deserve to die for my investigation. They're witnesses. They're evidence. They're problems that need to be solved. Dylan gestured toward his SUV with the gun. Move. Now, before security does their next patrol. We walked slowly toward Dylan's vehicle, James leaning heavily on my shoulder, Victoria walking beside us with tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I stole from you. I'm sorry I didn't see through Dylan's manipulation. I'm sorry Maya died protecting both of us. Victoria, it's not your fault. It is my fault. If I hadn't been embezzling, Maya wouldn't have been investigating financial irregularities. She'd still be alive. If Dylan hadn't been embezzling more than you were, Maya wouldn't have found anything to investigate. This is his fault. All of it. We reached Dylan's SUV. He opened the back door, gestured for us to get in. James first, Victoria next. Sophia, you sit between them. We climbed into the back seat, James bleeding slowly onto the leather upholstery, Victoria shaking with fear and shock. Dylan got in the driver's seat, locked the doors, started the engine. Where exactly at Lake Austin? I asked. The boat launch where Victoria took you earlier tonight. Full circle, Sophia. You'll die in the same place where you finally learned the truth about Maya. Dylan backed out of the parking space, drove toward the garage exit. Any last words? Any final confessions? Any deathbed revelations? Just one, I said. What's that? I pulled out my phone, showed Dylan the screen. I've been live streaming this entire conversation to Facebook. Everything you've said, everything you've confessed, to everything you've threatened, it's all been broadcast live to 300 of my followers. Dylan slammed on the brakes so hard we all lurched forward. You're lying. Check your phone. Search for my Facebook page. Sophia Chen, Austin, Texas. You'll find the live video from tonight. Dylan grabbed his phone, searched frantically. Found my Facebook page. Found the live video. Found 300 comments from people who'd watched him confess to murder and threatened to kill 3 witnesses. You bitch, he snarled. You murderer, I replied. Dylan threw his phone at the windshield where it shattered against the glass. It doesn't matter. I'll say the video was staged, edited, fake. I'll claim you forced me to confess under duress. 300 witnesses watched you threaten to kill us in real time, Dylan. They saw you shoot James. They heard you confess to murdering Maya. No amount of gaslighting is going to explain that away. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Dylan heard them too. Back up, I asked James. Back up, he confirmed. I triggered a silent alarm on my radio before I slid it to Dylan. Help's been on the way for 20 minutes. Red and blue lights appeared in the garage entrance. Austin PD, FBI, probably SWAT. Dylan was trapped. Last chance, I said. Surrender now and maybe you avoid the death penalty. Keep fighting and you'll definitely get it. Dylan stared at the approaching police lights, then at us, then at the shattered remains of his phone. You know what, Sophia, you win, but you win a hollow victory. Maya's still dead. Your business is still destroyed. Victoria's still a thief. And you're still the woman who cared more about success than relationships. And you're still a murderer who killed an innocent woman to cover up your crimes. An innocent woman who would have destroyed everything I'd worked for. An innocent woman who would have given you a second chance if you'd asked for one. Dylan was quiet for a moment, watching police cars surround his SUV. Maybe, he said finally, but second chances are for people who deserve them. And Maya proved that I don't. Maya proved that you were capable of change, of growth, of redemption. But you chose murder instead. I chose survival. You chose cowardice. Police officers approached the SUV with weapons drawn, shouting commands through megaphones. Dylan unlocked the doors, raised his hands. Game over, he said. 1 year later, I'm standing in the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, but this time I'm not serving drinks or hiding in service corridors. I'm standing on the stage speaking to an audience of 500 wedding industry professionals about Maya Chen's vision for collaborative business practices. My sister believed that competition didn't have to mean destruction, I tell the crowd. She believed that success could be shared, that businesses could grow together instead of tearing each other down. In the front row, Victoria Kane sits with a notebook taking careful notes. She's serving 18 months in minimum security for embezzlement, but she's been granted work release to help establish the Maya Chen Foundation for Ethical Business Practices. The foundation my sister would have created had she lived focuses on 3 principles. I continue. Transparency in financial practices, collaboration over competition, and second chances for people who make mistakes but want to change. Dylan Harper was sentenced to life without parole for Maya's murder. His trial lasted 6 months and revealed the extent of his manipulation, theft, and psychological abuse. The Facebook live stream had been crucial evidence showing his real personality when he thought no one was watching. The Maya Chen Foundation provides microloans to women starting wedding planning businesses, offers free financial management training, and creates networking opportunities for small business owners who might otherwise be isolated and vulnerable. After Dylan's conviction, I'd used the insurance payout and recovered stolen funds to rebuild. Not Eternal Moments, that name belonged to a different life, a different version of myself. Instead, I'd started Chen Collaborative Events, a cooperative where multiple planners shared resources, clients, and profits. We're not just planning weddings, I tell the audience. We're creating a new model for how women can work together in traditionally competitive industries. We're proving that Maya's vision of collaboration over competition actually works. Victoria has been my business partner in the foundation, using her experience with Kane Luxury Events to help other women avoid the mistakes she'd made. Her theft conviction had been a scandal, but her commitment to making amends had earned respect from the industry. Maya believed that everyone deserved a second chance, I conclude. Even people who'd made serious mistakes, even people who'd hurt others. She believed in the power of redemption, the possibility of change, the importance of forgiveness. The audience applauds. After the presentation, I signed copies of the book I'd written about Maya's life and legacy, not the tragedy of her death, but the beauty of her vision for a more collaborative world. Sophia, Victoria approaches as I'm packing up my materials. How are you feeling about the presentation? Good. Nervous, but good. Maya would have done this better. Maya would have been proud of what you did today. We walk out of the Ryman together into the Nashville evening. Victoria, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you really think Maya would have forgiven Dylan if he'd confessed voluntarily, asked for help, tried to make amends? Victoria considers the question carefully. I think Maya would have tried to help him become a better person. Whether Dylan was capable of change, we'll never know. Because he chose murder instead of redemption. Because he chose fear instead of faith. Maya had faith in people's capacity to grow, to change, to become better than they were. Dylan couldn't accept that faith because he couldn't see past his own guilt and shame. We reach the street where our rental car is parked. Sophia, I need to tell you something. About the night Maya died. About her last voicemail. What about it? Victoria pulls out her phone, scrolls to an old voice message. I saved this. From Maya. The last message she left me. She plays the recording. Maya's voice fills the quiet street. Victoria, I know you and Dylan both made mistakes. I know you're both scared about what might happen if the truth comes out. But mistakes don't define us. What we do after we make mistakes, that's what defines us. I'm going to help both of you figure out how to make this right. Because I believe in second chances. I believe in redemption. I believe in you. The message ends. We stand in silence for a moment, listening to the sounds of Nashville nightlife around us. She was trying to save all of us, I say finally. She was trying to save everyone. Even Dylan. Even after she knew what he'd done. That's who Maya was. That's her real legacy. Not the businesses built on her death, but the belief that people can change, grow, become better than they were. Victoria nods. That's why the foundation matters. That's why this work matters. Because somewhere out there is someone making the same mistakes Dylan and I made. And maybe if we do this right, they'll choose redemption instead of destruction. We get in the car, drive back toward Austin. Victoria, yeah. Thank you. For helping with the foundation. For telling the truth at Dylan's trial. For choosing redemption. Thank you for giving me a second chance. for believing Maya was right about people's capacity to change. We drive through the Texas night, two women who'd been enemies, then allies, now friends, working together to honor the memory of someone who'd believed in the power of forgiveness. Maya Chen had wanted to revolutionize the wedding industry through collaboration instead of competition. In the end, she'd revolutionized something much more important. She'd revolutionized our understanding of what it means to forgive, to change, to choose love over fear. And that revolution started with a live stream in a parking garage, a confession that couldn't be taken back, and two women who decided to honor their sister's memory by building something beautiful from the ashes of everything they'd lost. Maya's vision hadn't died with her. It had just been waiting for the right time to bloom. Final message. If you've made it this far, you've witnessed the complete truth about Maya Chen's death, Victoria Kane's redemption, and my journey from destruction to rebuilding. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. Sometimes the enemies we think we have are actually allies we haven't recognized yet. And sometimes justice looks different than revenge. Sometimes it looks like forgiveness, second chances, and building something beautiful from the ruins of what was destroyed. Maya believed that everyone deserved a second chance. Even thieves, even murderers. Even the broken people who serve drinks at music festivals while their worlds collapse around them. Her killer chose fear over faith destruction, over redemption. But the rest of us, we chose differently. We chose Maya's way. And that made all the difference. Subscribe for more stories about justice, redemption, and the power of second chances. Because everyone deserves a chance to become better than they were.